This is the story of Baba Abdalla from an Arabian Nights tale. Once upon a time, the Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his grand vizier, disguised as merchants, were proceeding along a bridge in the city of Baghdad. Along their way, they met a blind man begging for alms. The Caliph gave him a piece of gold and was much surprised at the old man's response. "Pray, sir," said the old man, "give me a box on the ear. Otherwise, I shall be unable to accept your alms without breaking a solemn vow." After some hesitation, the Caliph obeyed this strange request and gave the old man a very slight blow, and then continued on his walk. When he had gone a little way, the Caliph said to his vizier, "Return and tell that blind man to come to the palace tomorrow at the hour of afternoon prayer, for I would hear his history, which must be strange." The vizier hastened to obey and then resumed his walk with the Caliph. The next day the blind man appeared at the palace, where he was introduced into the Caliph's presence by the Grand Vizier. He prostrated himself before the throne, and when he rose up, the Caliph asked him his name. The blind man answered that it was Baba Abdalla. "Baba Abdalla," said the Caliph, "tell me why you require those who give you alms to give you a box on the ear." The blind man, having bowed low, replied, "Sir, I will tell you, and you will see that this action is but a slight penance for the great crime of which I am guilty." Then he went on to tell his story. "I was born in Baghdad. At an early age, found myself in possession of considerable wealth. Soon I began to trade with all the cities of the land. On one of my journeys led me to Basora. When I was returning with my unladen camels, I met a dervish with whom I sat down to eat. During our meal, the dervish told me that he knew of a spot close by where there were such immense riches that if all my 80 camels were loaded with jewels, gold and jewels from it, nothing would be missed there. I was delighted by what I heard, and I begged the dervish to conduct me to the spot. Whereupon he replied, "I am ready to conduct you to the place where the treasure lies. We will load your 80 camels with jewels and gold, but only if, once they are loaded, you will let me have 1/2, and you will be content with the other half. After that, we will separate and take our camels where we may think fit. You see, this is entirely fair division, for if you give me 40 camels, you will procure, by my help, enough to purchase thousands." Although avarice made me unwilling to give up so much, I had no choice but to accept the terms of the dervish offered. As soon as he had heard my decision, he led me to the place. It was a valley situated between 2 high mountains, so secluded that there was no fear of discovery. When we arrived there, the dervish quickly collected some sticks and kindled a fire. As he muttered mysterious words, a dense smoke arose from the fire. When this had cleared away, I saw that the sides of the cliff had rolled back. A magnificent palace was revealed in the side of the mountain, with great heaps of treasure lying about. Like a greedy bird of prey, I seized the gold and filled my sacks, until I saw that the dervish paid more heed to the jewels. I followed his example, so that we took away more jewels than gold. Although among some other things, the dervish saw a small golden vase that contained nothing more than a sticky ointment. And after we had loaded our camels, he closed the rock by using some mystic words. We now divided the camels, each taking 40. We traveled together till we came to a great road where we were to part, the dervish to go to Basora and I to Baghdad. We embraced each other with great joy and started on our different routes. I had not gone far before the demon of ingratitude and envy took possession of my heart. I mourned the loss of my camels, but even more the riches with which they were loaded. The dervish, said I to myself, has no need for all that wealth, since he is the master of the treasure and may have as much as he pleases. So I gave myself up to the coldest ingratitude and determined immediately to take from him the camels with their load. To carry out this plan, I called to him as loudly as I could, pretending I had something important to say, and made a sign to him to stop, which he did. When I came up to him, I said, "Brother, I have no sooner parted from you than a thought came into my head. You are used to living apart from the world, intent upon only serving God, but you know not, perhaps, what trouble you have taken upon yourself to take care of so many camels. Hear my advice, and keep but 30. You will find that number hard enough to manage. Take my word, I have experience." The dervish, who seemed rather afraid of me, at once had me choose 10 camels from his 40. This I promptly did, and joined them with my 40. The readiness with which he had given up these 10 only increased my desire for more. "Brother," said I, 30 camels are too many for you to manage, since you are not used to the work. Therefore, I beg you, relieve yourself of 10 more. My request was promptly granted by the dervish, who gave me 10 more camels. He now had but 20 left, and I was the master of 60, and gave boast of greater riches than any sovereign prince. Anyone would have thought I should now be content, but I only became greedier and more desirous of the other 20 camels. I pleaded even more strongly in order to make the dervish grant me 10 of his remaining 20 camels, which he did with good grace. And as to the 10 he had left, I embraced him, kissed his feet, and begged him not to refuse me. And at length he crowned my joy by giving me them also. Then into my head came the thought that the little vase the dervish had shown me probably contained something more precious than all the riches I had. I longed to possess it, so I said, "What will you do with that little vase of ointment? It seems such a trifle, it's not worth carrying away. Will you not make me a present of it? What use has a dervish, who has renounced the vanities of the world, for perfumes or scented ointments? Would to heaven he had refused me that vase, but if he had, I was stronger than he, and would have taken it from him by force." The dervish readily pulled it out of his robe and presented it to me with the best grace in the world, saying, "Here, take it, brother, and be content. If I can do more for you, you need but ask." When I had the vase in my hand, I opened it and said to him, "Since you are so good, I am sure you will not refuse the favor of telling me the special use of this ointment." "The use is very surprising and wonderful," replied the dervish. "By applying a little of it around the left eye, you can but at once see all the treasures contained in the earth. But if you apply it to the right eye, you will become blind." At my request, the dervish applied the ointment to my left eye, and I found that he had indeed spoken truly. I saw vast riches and longed to grasp them all. I then bade him put some around my right eye. "Pray remember," said the dervish, "that you will immediately become blind." Far from being persuaded that the dervish was telling the truth, I imagined that he was trying to hide some mystery from me. "Brother," replied I, smiling, "I see plainly that you wish to mislead me. It is not natural that this ointment should have 2 such contrary effects." "The matter is as I tell you," replied the dervish. "You ought to believe me, for I cannot conceal the truth." I would not believe the dervish, although he spoke like an honest man. My great desire to possess all the treasures in the world had such an effect on me that I would not heed his warnings. I could not believe his words, which were, however, all too true, as I soon found out. Since the ointment, by being applied to the left eye, had the power to show me all the treasures of the earth, I was sure that by being applied to the right, it might have the power of giving the treasures into my hand. Possessed with this thought, I urged the dervish to apply the ointment to my right eye. brother," said he, "after I have done you so much service, I cannot do you so great an injury. Consider what a misfortune it would be to be deprived of one's eyesight. Do not force me to do a thing which you will be sorry for all of your life." I persisted, however, and said in strong terms, "Brother, lay aside all your objections. You have granted me all that I ask of you hitherto. Would you have me go away dissatisfied about a thing of so little consequence? Grant me, I pray you, this last favor. Whatever happens, I will not lay the blame on you, but take it upon myself alone." The dervish, having made all the resistance possible, finally took a little of the fatal ointment and applied it to my right eye. Then, alas, I immediately became blind, and you see me now. "Ah, dervish," I exclaimed in agony, "what you warned me has proven to be true. Fatal curiosity," added I, "foolish desire of riches, into the depths of misery have they cast me. But you, dear brother, who are so charitable and good, among your wonderful secrets, have you not one that will restore to me my sight?" "Miserable wretch," answered the dervish, "if you had only heeded my advice, you would have avoided this misfortune. But you now have what you deserve. The blindness of your mind was the cause of the loss of your eyes. Pray to God, therefore, to restore your eyesight. He gave you riches, of which you were unworthy. On that account, he takes them from you again, and by my hands will give them to men not so ungrateful as you are." The dervish left me to myself, overcome with despair. After he had collected my camels, he drove them away and continued on the road to Bassorah. Thus, deprived of my sight and all I had in the world, I should have died from affliction and hunger, if the next day a caravan had not received me charitably and brought me back to Baghdad. And so I was reduced to beggary. As a punishment for my offense, I now ask every person who gives me alms to give me also a box on the ear. This is the explanation of what seemed so strange to your Majesty yesterday. I ask your pardon once more, and submit to whatever punishment I deserve." "Baba Abdalla," replied the Caliph, "you may cease to beg publicly, and to show your appreciation of your remorse and my approval of your punishment you have inflicted on yourself. I grant my Grand Vizier to pay you daily hereafter 4 pieces of silver money." At these words, Baba Abdalla prostrated himself before the Caliph's throne, returned him thanks, and wished him all happiness and prosperity.